You are in the Twilight Lounge, along with me, Larry Rosen, him, Eric Goldbrenner, and one large, sort of intrusive microphone. We've been having some technical problems, so we had to start over. You lost 15 minutes of really good discussion, not about what's good for the Jews, but more about my complaints about my street being closed on a street cleaning day.
Yeah, but you weren't just blowing steam. You were making sense, man.
I was making some good points, and now they're all gone. Eric, we have a new setup here because my microphone obviously sucks since it didn't record 15 minutes of top-notch information.
It doesn't suck, it just didn't work.
Well, it was $99 at the Apple Store, and it's got a really suspicious scrape on the side of it that may have happened when it was not under my control. You have a teenager as well, so I'm sure you're used to these sorts of things.
And a house pet.
I don't think my pet did. By the way, I'm going to have to recap because the 15 minutes were...
Yeah, tell them what you were lamenting.
No, actually, I was going to say that I come to you from traveling far and wide, but the reason why I bring it up now, you said house pet. So when we travel, we take our pet to a place called Pet Camp.
I've heard of it.
Because it's owned by a Brandeis family.
Right.
Pet Camp is a lucrative enough business that you can not only quit your career as a lawyer, but you can send 4 children to private school at the same time.
Pet Camp's good for the Jews.
Pet Camp's good for those Jews.
Jewish dogs.
Anyways, when we travel far and wide, like we did last week, you can go to the Pet Camp site, and each night they will post pictures of all the dogs that have been there. So we go through and we look for pictures of our dog. That's what we do when we travel.
Okay.
So I just want to say, if it was him, who, and by the way, I'm brandishing my now semi-useless microphone. It's very close to the actual working microphone. If it was my dog who produced this, what am I going to do? I'm the kind of guy who goes on vacation and ends every night online looking at pictures of my dog at Pet Camp.
I don't know.
I don't know if that dog's good for the Jews.
I would still hit my dog over the head with the microphone, but...
You don't have a dog.
How we're different.
You have a cat.
My theoretical... Well,
this is how we're different. You're a cat guy.
Yeah, except you don't expect anything but bad behavior from a cat.
When you go away, what do you do with your cat?
Just
roams around?
No. First of all, it's not my cat. It's my wife's cat. And so what she does is she arranges for visitors to come to the home and feed them and play with them and look after them.
And that is an excellent... It seems almost Jewish to me because that would never occur to my wife.
Can I tell you what I would do with a cat?
Are they Jews who come to take care of your cat?
Yeah, they're Jews. Misguided Jews who believe that the cat actually gives a damn about their presence.
Just wants food.
Right. If it was me, I would put out a ton of food for the cats. I'd get them one of those big water dispensers that never runs out. I'd lay out an extra cat box. I'd open all the doors so they come and go where they please. And I'd leave them alone.
Perfect libertarian solution. Here's the food, cat. You decide how much of it you're going to eat every day.
Do you think a cat wants to be bothered?
You know what I am starting to believe is I don't think my dog really wants to be bothered. He just wants food.
He would just lay there for 5 days straight, right?
Yeah, well, it's weird, I say this, but I also know that he is oddly loyal.
For a dog? Dogs are loyal.
I know, but sometimes I think, he's never been the kind of dog who, goes crazy when you come home. I'm really glad they didn't get to see me just imitate a dog coming home. Hey, they're home. Oh, my God.
Woohoo! They beat themselves with the tail and start smashing things.
And they jump up and down, and if they're big, that makes me not want to go in the house. But my dog is not that dog. He comes, he checks, because he's very blue-collar, and he's always working. He's always protecting the house. So he checks.
Yep.
Oh, it's that guy, the guy who gives me food. And occasionally pets me, and sometimes bops me on the nose when I bark too much. And then he walks away.
When he checks you out, is it a visual, or does he sniff your...
Visual. Visual. He says, oh, it's him. Turns around, walks away. So I thought, he doesn't care about us. But, there's some times, a while ago we had, whenever there's a repairman or something, people come visit, he's there, right? He's present, he's really perky. Well, I realized the other day we had a cable repair guy there, and the dog was at his feet. And I was saying, my dog's name's Shaq. I was thinking, Shaq likes the repairman. I was like, no, Shaq's protecting us from the repairman. He was positioned between the repairman and us.
That's right.
And he kind of had that look like...
guarding the turf.
Always ready. So Shaq, I have the highest respect for my dog. He's very blue collar. He works very hard, unlike me. He's always looking out the front to make sure. He's looking out the back. Although, don't you think when your dog's barking out the back, he's kind of saying, screw me, screw you!
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a dog. I would not cohabitate with such a creature. I think they're...
You didn't have dogs growing up or anything?
Yeah, we had one dog. It really was enough to convince me that humans shouldn't live with dogs. You know, I mean, because we had one of those weird dogs that went out hunting garbage and stuck all the garbage under the bed.
Maybe you had a bad
lost
dog
half
experience.
of his fur, and you know, had no control over his bowels, and you know, his breath stunk. And, I mean, we loved the dog. Don't get me wrong, we loved him.
Yeah, but that sounds like an old creature. Dog.
Well, he got old.
Yeah, but he started out that way.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I didn't want a dog either, but we got the dog, and he's been a value add.
Oh, really? All that my friends have got dogs, it's always like, you know, dinner parties just heating up. Oh, we got to get home. We got to walk the dog.
Oh, yeah, that's annoying.
You know, dancing is breaking out at your
parties.
I
mean, I'm also...
look after the dog.
You know,
hey, you want to take a cruise? We're thinking of taking a trip. We're going back east. Oh, no, we got to stay home with the dog.
Well, I mean, the worst thing about owning a dog is the other people who own dogs.
Oh, yeah, people think they can bring their dogs with them when we invite them over. What the hell's
that?
I
saw a dog in the library yesterday, and I was like, are you kidding me? And the woman was like walking. Of course, she's a weirdo, you know.
Right. If you're not blind or crippled or some
well, you know, every dog
protected
can be
class, you can leave the dog home.
Where did I see a dog? I think it was in a coffee place, and that's supposed to be illegal.
You know, there's a bar in San Francisco.
Yeah, in Bernal Heights, where you can bring your dog.
I was in there, and there's a dog sitting at the bar with his paws right up on the, bar. Sitting there.
What was he drinking?
I don't know. What do dogs drink?
They have dog beer.
I would think a porter would be appropriate for dogs.
Yeah, I think it depends on the dog. I think my dog is English in origin, so he might. But he seems like someone who would drink something lighter.
He's a corgi, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a corgi.
Those aren't German dogs?
No, they're Welsh.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's another, race of people on the planet who thinks it's, somehow humorous to inbreed dogs, so
they have little tiny legs.
And, yeah, I mean, what
I don't know.
Why would you do that? Why would you start a
I don't know the backstory
race of
my dog.
Dogs.
Everyone, a note also, one of the side effects of our new setup here is probably you're hearing some echo.
Stop worrying about it.
I'm not happy about it, but I'm just going to live with it.
They're hearing something. I think that's a plus.
Yeah. It was so sad. The flat line on the GarageBand.
We had the greatest intro to the podcast, but it's right up there with the Great Lost episode, because we didn't get it recorded. I
think probably everything we dislike about San Francisco would be solved if that podcast had managed to go live and people had heard it.
That's,
I think there would no longer be war in the Middle East.
Right.
Well, I think my hair would come back.
Against us. That's right. Yeah.
It's very sad. But I do want you to hear this, listeners. That's right. My water's back.
Yeah, Larry's a thirsty man.
Enjoying some
water.
Why,
you must have come from the gym or just walked 10 miles over here.
I did, because I'm huge and you're on fire.
Yeah. You should see this guy.
And hi, Mom. Sam.
Hi, Mom.
Sharon.
What's your mom's
Kimmel.
name?
Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
Eric
Thanks for making Larry. He's better than he thinks he is.
Eric says, hi, Mom. Anyways, I do want to recap that I have traveled. We've both traveled far and wide in the last week. Me to our ancestral homeland, you to really the land of the Goyim.
Oh yeah. I went to the outskirts of the diaspora.
Places that I'm very comfortable. Eric was in Portland and Eugene, right?
Yes.
Eugene's everything bad about San Francisco, nothing good.
Eugene?
Not a fan.
Really?
Fan. Oh no.
It seemed like a delightful town. It was nice.
It's where they filmed Animal House.
Yeah, so I was told. I don't know. Eugene, it's a college town. It seemed to me like a rainy, rural UC Berkeley without the hippie freak weirdos.
Oh,
I thought that's
you were right up until you got to the part where without the hippie freak weirdos. It's like the ancestral. If New York is our ancestral homeland, Eugene, not Berkeley, is the ancestral homeland.
Well, don't forget, I was on the campus, University of Oregon campus, where it was just a bunch of young people. Look, we went out to the student union, and the first thing I was looking around is like, okay, where's the BDS people, the Sanction Israel? Where are all those, left-wing fascists that practice thought control and try to intimidate you into thinking like them? And I didn't see them. What I saw was a bunch of students saying, run for student government. It's very important.
Because they're definitely there.
I didn't see them.
And God bless my child, who is presently at a Catholic school, but also Jewish educated. We too were on a college tour, and he checked every single school to see their level of friendliness toward Jews.
Really. Well, he's got to, make sure they like Jews and Catholics.
Yeah.
And, he's got so many buckets he's got to check off. God's got to love him. Because he's still got to be in with God. Everyone else has got to, have a real bone to pick with him.
Well, I didn't tell him. The last school we looked at was also the most discouraging and intimidating, Cornell. And Great school, maybe too great. A little bit too big, too much pressure. He
wants to study the sciences?
Engineering.
Engineering?
Didn't like Cornell. Felt like everyone has to work too hard and you got to join a fraternity to have fun.
Really?
That was his take. He didn't know the next day Cornell voted not to join BDS or whatever it is they do. But it was on the table at Cornell.
Do we vote to join the boycott, divestment, sanction Israel movement and alienate all of our affluent Jewish supporters who are giving us endowments?
Well, Berkeley does it.
Yeah, well, see, okay.
And everybody I know,
San Francisco
I have
State.
a very skewed view of the world where the Prius is the most popular car on the road, and everybody went to Berkeley. All the Jews went to Berkeley.
They did. There are a lot of Israelis there, too.
They went to Lowell High School and Berkeley.
Okay, you have to understand how this came about. In California in the 60s, you had all these student uprisings, and Ground Central was UC Berkeley, right? And San Francisco State and some others.
Led by the Jews. Very important Jewish representation. We sort of touched on that last week, the free speech movement.
Right, Mario Savio, the free speech movement.
Not Jewish, but everybody else.
Right, and I think the free speech, I'm down with that. Free speech is good for the Jews. I would dissociate that from hippieism whatsoever. Free speech is a much deeper
Hippieism was a party.
Right. Well, I mean, the hippies, there's a political movement there, but I don't want to give them any credit. No, I give the hippies credit for what they achieved. In fact, I'm reading, not to digress, but I'm reading right now the biography of Stokely Carmichael. It just came out, and it's really giving me new insights into civil rights. Well, you can't dissociate civil rights from the hippies, man.
I can.
Well, you can, but I mean...
If you're talking specifically Summer of Love, 1965 to 68, San Francisco hippies... Not concerned.
I'm talking about okay, whatever. I don't want to define what I mean by hippies because then everyone's going to know what I talk about when I slam them, and I'd rather have that be couched in mystery and have them sort of figure it out.
You're no mysterious.
Just
like Titus Welliver, who you resemble.
Titus?
Titus. Oh. He was the man in black on Lost.
Oh, yeah, I never saw it. I thought he was an athlete, and I was going to be completely befuddled. Anyway, here's the thing. In the 60s, the college campuses was ground central for a lot of the hippie movement, and in California, there's a lot of stuff went down, right? There was big resistance. Students demanded a larger, more active role in the running of these institutions, and they got it. And student government got a lot more power, especially power over how they allocate their funds. That's here in California.
Because Lord knows, I hate to be this guy, but Lord knows 19-year-olds really know what's best.
Yeah, well, what can I tell you, man?
That's the parent of a teenager who's a great teenager.
Well, what was it when when the people lead, the leaders will follow?
And a child shall lead them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of bullshit. I really, whatever. This is what went down. Okay. So it didn't happen at Cornell, right? Cornell being a private institution.
But it kind of happened at Columbia.
The gray-hair patricians who were running the place.
But wasn't there a period in the 70s when there was unspoken quotas against Jews in the Ivy League because we were overrepresented?
Really? That could.
I've heard that. If my dad was here, he could tell us.
Yeah, I would have no way to know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
But unspoken quotas against
to keep us out.
Well, that's discrimination.
Right, but if they're unspoken, how do you prove it? Actually, if they're unwritten,
you look at statistics.
They're probably spoken,
you
but
have to do an investigation.
Yeah, just a bunch of dumb Jews for a few years there. What happened? Everyone else was.
Find me a dumb Jew.
Here's what's funny. Check this out. So, my son is not a supporter of affirmative action, but visiting his favorite school on this trip, the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which has a 71 to 29% boy-to-girl ratio, he said, boy, they should think of ways to get more girls in here.
Right. Yeah, well, would affirmative action actually do that? I thought affirmative action was specific.
Oh, no, I broke it down further. I'm like, what do you mean? You mean like maybe they should make it easier for them? They should change. They should do more outreach to get him in.
It's good that he's thinking about these things, and it's good that you're challenging him with thought-provoking questions.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was a great school, but there's no girls there.
Really? Well, chicks are a distraction.
Yeah.
All right, I got an engineer joke for you.
Okay.
Okay. A bunch of people are debating who created the human body. Was it an engineer? Was it an artist? The artist is saying it had to be an artist. Look at the grace, look at the beauty. The engineer is saying, no, it's got to be an engineer because look at the mechanics, look at the physics. And the other engineer says, no, it wasn't just an engineer, it had to be a civil engineer. And he says, why? I said, well, look below the waist. Who's going to put a toxic waste dump that close to a recreation area? It doesn't make any sense. It's got to be a civil engineer. Okay. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Is Cornell good for the Jews?
Not that Jew. I don't know if it is or not, because I didn't get much of a feel for what Cornell is. It did seem a little bit, I had a different, because I got more of a chip on my shoulder than my child. I, go to a place like that and I go, look at these punks, think they're smarter than my kid.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I hear the mystique of Cornell and I just think, wow, the reputation precedes the actual place.
Could it possibly be that good?
I'm assuming it must be.
I don't know. Because we're looking at engineering schools, so it's not as well ranked as other engineering schools.
I don't think of it as an engineering school.
No, me neither, but it's the best one of the Ivies. It's the highest ranked of the Ivies. Yeah. I don't know, and I wasn't that... Ithaca's supposed to be this great town, but it was just like it's Oregon in New York.
Yeah, Ithaca, New York, I'm thinking of like Woodstock hippies.
Yes, absolutely, which I told him, well, on the one hand, you might, if you went here, it might help with homesickness that it is a lot like home, but on the other hand, you'll often complain loudly about hippies.
Yeah, so we don't like the hippies, and there weren't enough chicks. Okay, and you were walking around.
No, Cornell had plenty.
They're smarter than
Cornell had plenty of girls. It was Rensselaer, the school he really liked.
Oh, really?
In Troy, New York, which is not hippies, which is more of a beat to crap factory, East Coast. Really cool buildings from the 1800s town.
After those, sort of blue-collar labor union New Yorkers beat the crap out of you once or twice, you really
I don't mean
the
people who had the crap beat on. The town itself had the crap beat out of it. Yeah. Like it was, the factory's closed, and we're trying to come back. By the way, this is all a public service for my mom. One of the 4 people I know is listening. Mom, this is how our college trip was. I didn't talk to you last week, so now you know. This is what we decided.
Did you decide?
No. We decided no on Cornell. We decided no on Cooper Union, which is this engineering school in Manhattan that's basically just 2 buildings.
Oh, yeah,
no campus.
Urban.
It's just
because then he's living in New York City and going to school.
That was the attraction, although I would really concern about my child at present going to college where they don't have housing or a meal plan.
Yeah. What, so paying, $90,000 a year to go to school isn't enough for you? You need the added expense of putting them in an apartment in Manhattan?
Here's the thing about Cooper Union. Everyone who goes there gets a half scholarship. So it evens out, but it just wasn't the problem with these college, I don't know if you probably don't because you're sane, but the problem with these college tours to me is you look and go, well, I wouldn't want to go there. Oh yeah, that's right, it's not for me.
Right. Yeah, well that's what I thought when I went to University of Oregon.
Yeah.
Because we walked through first of all, there's no privacy. Right, so if you live in the dorms,
you never lived in a dorm, did you?
Why would I live in a dorm?
Wow.
I was an only child with a single mother in a 4-bedroom, 2-story house in Pacifica.
Yeah.
Growing up, I could go days without seeing anyone.
Wow, that's right.
That's
crazy,
and I don't care to associate with other people.
Yeah,
right? That's why we've got this virtual world here. For those of you listening, I am not manifested as a person.
So
I'm
lying.
a disembodied voice.
It's like that movie with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's him. I'm with him.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm him. Right. So
it's
anyway,
my virtual mentor over here.
The thing is with University of Oregon. Okay, we walked through the dorms and. A dorm room is half the size of my daughter's existing room.
I lived in dorms. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right, it's
you
like
just
being
do
on a submarine.
But it's
it's like you're on a submarine. You got your little
quite
bunk.
like being on a submarine, but it is tight quarters.
Tight quarters, no privacy.
Yeah, but that's part of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's part of it.
I
wouldn't sign up for that.
I would and did, and my kid would and did. And
look how you turned out.
Yeah, well, I get a lot of privacy now. I didn't miss it. Then
maybe people don't want to associate with you.
That could very well
be. Maybe you've been shunned, ostracized.
I have been shunned before, and I will be shunned in the future, and that's all right. I don't really blame him much, but so yeah, Cooper Union, no.
Do we have any yes maybes?
Yeah,
Rensselaer,
top of the list. Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania, very high on his list.
It's all got to be back east.
No. We looked at schools out here. We're going to look at some more out here.
Yeah. And you haven't looked at Texas, Boston, Texas A&M.
There's nothing in Boston that other than MIT.
Don't they have
which
MIT?
You can't, come on.
Well, Cornell, MIT.
MIT is harder to get into. Really? There's a school in Texas I want him to look at, Rice University, but he's enough of a San Franciscan that he hates Texas without ever being there.
On principle alone.
Yeah, just the fact that it's Texas.
Good. I appreciate that open-minded attitude.
Totally.
Austin is supposedly San
Francisco, though it looks like Southern California. Actually, you know what Austin looks like? It looks like Sacramento. So it's not physically beautiful, though. I kind of like lots of trees, a river, but it is
got hills, don't they?
It's the hill country, but they're hills. Come on. They're not like our hills.
Well, listen, you're still in Texas. What do you want?
It's kind of like we're driving through upstate New York going, isn't this beautiful? And yeah, well.
It's like, well, I've never been to Paris, but, I was to Epcot Center, and
right.
so I have a sense of what Paris is.
So as long as you've never been...
I've been to the Venetian Hotel,
to Alaska,
but I never really to
you
Venice.
could think that upstate New York is beautiful.
I get you. Well, I tell you,
I wonder
the
my
road
sister
to
who's
Oregon is
lived in
beautiful.
both, or been to both, what she would think of that statement.
Well, let's ask her.
And if you do
Feedback.
if you do want to provide feedback, there's a box to click on the website to send us an email, or you can follow me on Twitter @LarryRosen, or him on Twitter @Goldbrenner.
Is that true?
Yeah, good for you. You have Twitter. You posted like 3 things, but now if people start saying stuff,
you could see everything I've eaten from 2009 until 2011.
Yeah. Or you can just respond when I post this on Facebook, and please give me more than 48 likes. That's the number I've got for the picture I posted of my child sitting on the roof of his car, or the hood of his car, with his new driver's license yesterday.
His car?
Yeah, my grandmother gave it to him.
You're kidding me?
No, I wouldn't lie about
That's
that.
the way to be, man.
Amen, man. That's a good deal.
That's that's a very
It's his car, but
Hamish. It's a Jewish thing.
he still has to ask us if he can use it.
Yeah, but it's cool.
But it's his car, and then when he drives off, not to Cooper Union, that may be another reason that another thing that swayed him. I said, if you go to Cooper Union, I'm selling that car. You don't need it.
You can't take a car away back east to college.
No, he could, but not in Manhattan. No, he could drive if Rensselaer, in Troy, New York, or in Easton, Pennsylvania, he could do that, or Atlanta, or Durham, or the other places.
So he doesn't need the girls at the school. He could go hunting them. He's got a car, man.
Well, that's what's crazy. Troy, New York also has a girls' college downtown.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's like Officer and a Gentleman. They come looking for engineers.
Oh, yeah. That sounds pretty awesome.
Really good brew pub,
What kind of car?
A Honda Element.
You can pick up chicks in that.
Totally.
Yeah, what color is it?
Gray.
Silver. I want to get some pinstripes or flames or something. Put some big wheels on it or something like that.
Lift kit.
Pick up
maybe
chicks,
get up there.
Yeah, a little wing on the back.
I did bring a topic to discuss today.
Yeah.
So we don't have to talk about college tours the entire time.
Yeah.
And look at oh God! If you guys could just see this wonderful band of sound.
We're getting a good signal
on GarageBand. It's really I think my little microphone may just be ornamental at this point.
I'm trying to figure out how many minutes we've recorded, but whatever.
Oh, I know how many minutes we've recorded.
Good. You keep charge of that.
Yeah, that's my thing. That's what I'm in charge of now that you've taken over my computer, because you know how to use it and I don't.
Yeah, someone's got to.
All right, so this came to me while I was driving through upstate New York, which it is.
Threw up.
Sorry. It is pretty. Although we saw it the worst time because there were no leaves on the trees.
Jews.
New York is, the whole thing is good for the Jews. I enjoyed being there. It took me a couple days to adjust, but once I did, I felt very comfortable in that East Coast setting.
Good.
Jews everywhere.
Yep.
Not all of them good for the Jews. The guy sitting across from me on the plane who took his shoes off and his feet smelled and then licked his fingers when he ate a muffin.
Yeah.
Not good for the Jews.
Right.
Not good at all for the Jews.
Well, we've established in previous podcasts that having Jews that are representative of all people and not just being a Jewish type is good for the Jews.
Yeah.
So he's doing his part.
And I feel like we saw a lot of Jewish types.
Well, there's truth to the stereotypes, isn't there?
Yeah.
Stereotypes don't come from nowhere.
And interesting types, like on the Cooper Union tour, there were the guy like my kid's age, but like gold chain version.
Oh yeah, cool.
Like probably like if you stripped them nude and gave them the same haircut, they'd probably look identical. But he had no socks, gold chain.
Yeah. Was he like an L.A. gold chain or was
no,
he like
New York.
a New Jersey?
Yeah, New Jersey, New York.
Yeah.
I
like
think
those guys.
He had his brother with him, and he
Brash.
had Hugo Boss.
Hugo
Boss polo shirt, taking phone calls, texting the whole time.
Yeah.
That was not good for the Jews. That made me nervous.
Well, it could be good for the Jews. He could have connections. The kid could already be hiring. He could have his own business going. You don't know.
I wonder where that goes. Anyways, I was driving, listening to some music, and I'm just going to go esoteric and a little jokey with you this week. You ready?
Yeah, lay it on me.
Elvis. Is Elvis good for the Jews?
Oh, yeah, Elvis is good for everyone.
Really?
Really?
Not Chuck D.
What was Chuck D got against Elvis?
Chuck D said Elvis wasn't a hero to me, and I can see why.
Well, whatever, man.
All right, let's dig into this. because we're going to have to talk about popular music, the origins of popular music.
No, we don't have to talk any of that.
Coolness.
No one was cooler than Elvis. Elvis is still the king of rock and roll. I love rock and roll.
Let's catalog.
Chuck D, no disrespect to Chuck D. He did his thing. He's cool.
I would disrespect Chuck D because I hate that look he always has on his face. You know
he's
that?
Pissed off.
He's really mad.
What do you expect?
You're
keeping him down. He's pissed off at you.
I'd like to see Chuck. What if you were a stand-up comedian and you looked out in the audience and you saw Chuck D and Spike Lee?
You're in the wrong club.
Yeah.
You get off the stage. You let Cedric the Entertainer get up there and give the people what they want.
Cedric. I think Chuck and Spike would find something to be mad about.
Didn't Spike do a movie about Cedric the Entertainer?
Did he?
With him? Yeah.
Is he dead? Cedric.
I think he's dead.
Or am I confusing with Bernie Mac?
No, I don't know. I thought they're the same guy.
You just have not come close enough to a Def Comedy Jam in quite some time.
No, but I've seen a lot of Spike Lee movies, and he did one movie about stand-up comedians, and I just don't remember Cedric the Entertainer.
I don't think he would like a Def Comedy Jam, Spike.
Spike?
I think he would say minstrels.
Really?
Yeah, I think he'd be mad.
He's mad about everything. Minstrels. He did that movie about the black minstrels with Michael Rappaport. Was hysterical, where they had to do the show. And in fact, that movie, what the hell was it called? It was like, Is It Good for the Jews? They wanted to make the most, like, the blackest TV show they possibly could. So they came up with the idea of, black minstrels in a watermelon patch.
Remember when Spike Lee made that movie Italian People Are Stupid? Call it Summer of Sam.
Yeah, Summer of Sam. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was his movies are so pretty.
What I
don't think he's good for the Jews, though.
Spike Lee?
Yeah.
That's always debatable because he had that one movie, was it Moped or Blues, I think it was.
Which I didn't see.
With the Jewish agents who were
shocking.
manipulating the jazz bands, and ripping them off.
I would be shocked if Spike Lee had nice things to say about Jews.
Spike Lee has said some very controversial things about Jews, but this is, like I mentioned before, I'm reading the autobiography of Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand the relationship that black folks, politically radical black folks, have with Jews. It's a weird irony. Jewish liberals were totally supporting them to the hilt, and then as these guys became more and more radical and politically aware, they concluded that the Jews are basically just a subset of the whites, and that Israel is pretty much something that represents all of the evils of white society, like South Africa. It is fair because the liberals that support them have the same beliefs, the same mindset.
I would say, if anything, the correct answer would be that the liberals are no less patriarchal. They're just decided, well, we're still going to control you. We're just going to be really nice about it.
Yeah,
But saying that, I don't know. I'm not going to own up to being part of that power structure as a Jew, and Israel being the source of everything bad, unless they're going the Muslim route, which I can understand then if they're going that way, which Reuben Hurricane Carter did toward the end of his life.
Well, really?
Yep.
He just
He
passed.
just died, yeah.
He was a sports hero I'm familiar with.
Read a really good obit. Always in trouble with the law.
Well,
it wasn't completely out of
persecuted.
No, before that.
Yeah.
It wasn't completely out of the blue that he would be picked up for something. And you can't tell when they get into that stuff where it's like, well, it's because he was outspoken. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah, whatever. I wasn't there either.
Who knows? Anyways.
I just want to say one thing about the whole Jewish power structure in Israel and all that. I will own it.
Really? Because you want to be part of it?
Because I want to be part of it. Because it's because the state of Israel and the concept of Jewish power, Jewish political power, American political power, the Jewish lobby, all that, I believe it's good for the Jews. It's better to have power and then have people say, oh, you have power and you're misusing it, you're bad and all that. That's all better than not having power. And but having power is a necessity to survival.
But if it's an accusation that's not true, then how is that good for the Jews?
Well, the fact that we have power is true.
We have to take...
We have political power. It's true.
I still don't believe we have significant political power. I think we have significant economic power and significant cultural power, but not political.
Well, you make an important distinction. I think political power in America is directly correlated to how much financial strength you have. Your influence and your access to government and your ability to influence things is directly proportional.
See, and I still think there'll never be a Jewish president because we'll never vote for him.
I think there will be a Jewish president. I think the Jewish president won't need the Jewish vote because the Jewish vote, there's not that many Jews.
Wasn't Goldwater Jewish?
Goldwater,
level?
I believe so.
Yeah. At some level he was Jewish. I don't think his family had been Jewish for generations.
gold water.
Right.
No, they had to be Jewish.
No, but I mean, they hadn't practiced for generations. I think
Yeah,
they were
but
Christians, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Sort of like Disraeli. You know, Disraeli was the English, he was a Jew, converted to Christianity so that he could rise up in English government.
And you know, and I still think Disraeli Gears is still one of the best album names in the history
rocking.
of albums. So let's get back to
Is
rock
Eric
and roll and
Clapton
Elvis.
good for the Jews?
I don't know enough about Eric Clapton to say whether or not he's good for the Jews. I don't personally like him very much.
But you like Disraeli Gears?
I just like that name.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think the name is so awesome. And I liked Cream.
Yeah.
They were good. They were spare.
Yeah.
You know?
Trio.
Yeah, I liked Cream. I heard Eric Clapton, did he do some like horrible things at some point in his life? Like beat up women or rape women or
probably.
something?
I mean, he was a complete heroin addict. And his
know what
kid
it'd be
fell
like.
out the window.
Well,
died.
he wasn't a heroin addict, but I can't
So, I mean,
imagine
was he,
anything worse.
you know, while he was being a heroin addict, who knows what other drugs he was on and completely out of his head, was he like
beating women
people and ripping people off and all that?
Like,
sort of goes with the territory, doesn't
did
it?
he tie a woman to a chair and beat her up? Oh, no,
oh,
that was Sean Penn. Sorry.
Wait, really? Did he do
Yeah.
that? No.
Madonna, yeah.
He tied her to... No, well, she had to be asking for that. Did you see her
Oh,
sex book?
shit.
There's her whole... No, she published that sex book of all
Oh,
the
you
sex
think it was-
fantasies,
it
and
was
it's
a
all
thing
her
gone
being tied
wrong.
up and,
It was sort of
raped by, bikers and shit like that.
It's erotica gone wrong, a la Michael Hutchins and David Carradine.
I don't know, Bob Crane thing.
We don't know what goes on. We really don't.
Yeah, and I
Like
know.
William
and-
Goldman said, no one knows anything.
which is true.
Yeah.
No one knows nothing about nothing.
I think Courtney Love taught me that.
Really?
Nobody knows what's going
Directly, she taught you?
on. No,
You
God,
don't
no.
know Courtney Love.
No, I don't know Courtney Love.
I'd like to know her.
I would not like to know her.
Really?
She is not good for the Jews, if only for the sole reason
That's
that she
probably
pretends to be Jewish, and she's
Really?
not. Yes.
She pretends. Well, like Madonna's not pretending to be Jewish.
No,
while
but I
around
mean,
the
she
Kabbalah.
claims... No, Madonna pretends to practice Judaism. Courtney Love pretends like she is Jewish.
Really?
That she was born Jewish. Probably
How
because
do
her
you know
father
she's
was a
not?
deadhead. I saw it debunked recently. I was looking...
What a
Okay, so
whack job.
maybe I sometimes
Yeah,
look
well, I
at
was born black.
who was Jewish.
I was black.
Thank you.
And I converted because
God, I wish I could remember the full name
Right.
of Steve Martin's character.
being
in The
Jewish
Jerk.
wasn't, I need something to counteract all of the advantages I got from my Jewishness. So I decided to,
It's a
God, I wanted to finish up the black radical, Jewish thing.
I know, but you're getting too far afield. I want to talk about Elvis.
You want to talk about Elvis? Okay, lay it on me.
Okay. Here's why I think Elvis may not be good for the Jews.
Okay.
Well, I mean, to begin with, he's from the rural South.
Y'all.
And that was a factor his whole life. And I love country music, but I don't know if having that as the American icon musically, is that good for the Jews?
Oh, yeah.
Plus, and to take it in a more cynical level, we didn't control him.
Well,
Tom Parker did.
But who was his
Was there
promoter?
Jews behind? Who was his
Jerry
promoter?
Weintraub.
Oh.
Jerry Weintraub, the great Jerry Weintraub, that was his big claim to fame. He's called the Colonel every single day. Said, I want to take Elvis on the road. He want to take Elvis out of retirement. Colonel said, bring me $1 million. You show up with $1 million check, we'll take Elvis on the road.
Oh, that's right.
We'll
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Elvis play Madison Square Garden. That's good for the Jews.
Like Frank Sinatra.
Right. Well, Jerry Weintraub managed or
Who do you think's-
promoted Frank Sinatra too.
Who do you think's better for the Jews? Elvis or Frank Sinatra?
Well, you gotta say Frank Sinatra. I mean, Frank Sinatra stood up, and he was an advocate for Israel and an advocate for Jews, and for at a time when anti-Semitism was still a real factor in this country.
Well, Frank was always known for whatever faults he had as a person for being colorblind.
He hung out with Sammy Davis Jr.,
Who was
who
both
was a
black
Jew,
and Jewish.
right? And Joey Bishop and all those guys. They were all, there's a very well integrated sort of, Italian Jewish milieu. But we're talking about Elvis here. And the question is Elvis good for the Jews? I can prove that he was.
Okay, lay it on me.
Heartbreak Hotel, Jailhouse Rock. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
And he's written by Jews?
No, but these are all Elvis songs.
Actually,
man.
they were written by Jews.
Any Jew hears those songs.
Weren't
They're
they
dancing, they're singing.
Weren't they Lieber Stoller?
I don't know who
I
wrote
think
them. I
they
don't
were.
care. I'm just saying, with songs like that, you're good for the Jews.
Yeah, but I don't know, because I guess I'm trying to make a case that Elvis's popularity replaced something more Jewish. I don't know, Tin Pan Alley? I don't know. What was popular before that?
Like Elvis, if it wasn't for Elvis, Gershwin would, and
because
Rodgers and Hammerstein would
well,
still
then I
be
think about,
top
the culture of
Elvis.
Elvis.
Yeah.
The culture of Elvis was never something that came naturally to me. I mean, I liked Elvis. Of course, I didn't like Elvis because I liked Ricky Nelson, because that's how I was brought up. If everyone likes this, you like that.
I went to a garden party.
Yeah, I liked Ricky.
That was
singing
nice.
oldies at age 30. How about that, huh?
With my old friends. Yeah. Well, my feeling is this: if there is some sort of popular culture or cultural icon that unites all people and gives everyone something they can agree on, it's good for the Jews. Because frequently a Jew walks into a room of Gentiles and has nothing in common and can't find common ground with these people. And if you can just say, hey man, dig Elvis, and everyone agrees, right, you got a leg up. So that's good for the Jews.
I always feel sometimes about Elvis like I feel about the Beatles, that because so much of my life has been spent considering them as cultural icons, I forget that they were good.
Not good. Great.
Like, I forget, like, I'll hear, like, my favorite Beatles song is Rain. You know that song?
Yeah, sure.
And it's got that funky bass, and I insist, I was having an argument with her, no way is that Paul McCartney. There's no way he could do that. He was not that good of a bass player.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's a great musician. What are you talking about?
I just never think, like, no, they're like guys on cereal boxes. They're not real.
Oh, no.
Except for John Lennon, who I always liked.
You know what? They're all great players. John Lennon's probably the weakest player of them all.
But the biggest personality.
Oh yeah, and phenomenal artist. And Ringo Starr is a fine drummer and an excellent drummer. You listen to the orchestration and the changes and his ability to go from one.
But not a flashy drummer.
Well, it was the era of Keith Moon and John Bonham, where these big wild rumbling drum solos.
The Keith Moon, as far as a drummer's primary job, maybe not such a good drummer.
Well, he couldn't keep time.
Right.
Pete Townsend still complained. The man's dead for like 35 years. Pete Townsend's still complaining about him, right? But Ringo Starr,
he could keep time. So maybe I feel like Ringo, by living so long in such a sort of gross way, has tainted his legacy.
What do you mean? Ringo's like...
he's just like Hollywood.
Rock star.
I don't know.
What do you expect him to be?
I don't know what I expect him to be. That's a good question.
Well, look what happened to Elvis.
Right.
Walking around with a suitcase full of his urine.
I was trying to think. So you were talking about some popular musician's politics. Oh, you're talking Sinatra's politics. What were Elvis's politics? Did he have any politics?
No.
He worked for Nixon, but that was just because he probably thought it was cool.
I think that's why Elvis was such an American icon. He came out of the Deep South. He was apolitical. He went to the army when he was called. You know what I mean? It's like, he did the anti-drug campaign for the Nixon administration. But, more importantly, Elvis did something very important
was whacked
for
out
this
on
society.
pills while he was doing that.
He's a rock star, man. He's a rock star. But look at what Elvis did as a social phenomenon. In the 40s and 50s, this was a racist, segregated country. And people, the biggest fear that, these southern white families had was that their children would start to adopt the mannerisms and interact with the local Negroes. And then Elvis came out taking on the mannerisms and the musical style of the Negroes. Yeah, so you think that was a
necessary step, appropriating all that? And
I absolutely believe he played a key role in breaking down the color barrier, because look at what's happening today. Which is funny,
because he was such a hick, he didn't realize he was supposed to not do that. You know what I mean? As a Southerner?
Yeah, I think it came naturally to him. And I think I don't know that Elvis actually played with black musicians or collaborated
I don't think he did.
In any way.
No, but he listened to him.
Right, but what I think it was the first time that, at least in pop music, on pop radio, that you start to have this crossover.
Yeah, it's documented. And although you could also make the argument that a Jew, Leonard Chess, who owned Chess Records and recorded all those guys, was as important in introducing that culture. You could also, to white people.
Right. You could also look back and say, well, there are all these jazz players where you had Jews who were playing with black folks and collaborating. But jazz is
that was never,
they're artists.
It was more insular too.
Right. We're talking about pop music, which is a product.
We're talking about people who had never listened to something like this before, and it never occurred to them, all of a sudden loving it.
Right. Yeah. And Elvis, who basically took the black sound and popularized it. And then you had all these people all over the world who heard it and started to dig deeper, especially in England, and they started to dig into all the black artists who were being recorded on labels like Chess. Like
so
said,
Elvis,
they got influenced.
Elvis was a gateway drug.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they brought out the British invasion. You got all these, English guys that loved Elvis who were listening to B.B. King and all these black artists who created this new type of music, rock and roll, that fused it all together.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, interracial acts started to emerge.
And then, I guess if you want to draw this out further and make it good for the Jews, you can draw a direct connection between the people listening to Elvis, those Jews. 3 years later, civil rights guys.
Elvis spurred the civil rights movement. That's what you're saying? Because he galvanized the Jews?
When it comes to Jews, those same people were probably listening to Elvis, and they probably said, hey, it was their gateway drug.
Right. This is good
to an
music.
open mind.
Yeah, I think
where does this come from? I'm going to start listening to this.
Theory there, but I'm not going to debate it. How about this though? Look at what goes on today. What people feared in the 50s, those white, enslaved people, what they feared has come to pass today.
Oh yeah.
My kids, well, at least my older daughter, listens exclusively to what you would call black music because it's recorded and performed by black artists.
So does mine, which raises the quandary, and I think we've talked about this before. What do we do when the messages that music is exporting make the hairs on your neck stand up?
Well, but the message...
And don't tell me it was the same as Rock Me Annie in the 50s, that was as much as...
No, things are more explicit.
Although, I have to say...
gangster rap's really explicit.
A few years ago, my son and I got really into NWA.
Uh-huh.
And I had never listened to him before, and I was listening to Straight Outta Compton.
Uh-huh.
It's incredible to begin with.
Uh-huh.
But then, as this goes, Ice Cube,
right,
Dre,
yeah,
Eazy-E, and the other guy who never seemed to do anything. But it occurred to me after listening to it about 100 times that what initially was, oh my God, these guys are the scariest people, was actually teenagers standing on a corner boasting.
Right.
Yeah. And then I really loved it. Like, wow, they're just like, I'm the baddest guy in the world,
Right, yeah.
It was kind of cool, and it made it really a lot less... Like, I think if people who thought it was really disturbing needed to listen to it 100 times as a parent and go, oh, it's just...
You need to understand it in its context
as
a social phenomenon, not as,
And now Ice Cube makes kids' movies.
You know what? He's really good.
He's great.
He made that movie. His first movie was Boys in the Hood, which I saw like 15, 20 times.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater when it came out.
Yeah.
So good.
And, it really... For me, it really said something because I was at that age, as
you were in the hood.
No, I was like 19, 20, something like that, where I was becoming politically aware, and I started to develop this mindset that the experience of young black men in the inner city in America and the violence and the struggles with the police and all that, that's just another form of insurrection and revolution, just like you would find in any unstable country in the world. And to try to treat, the American race problem and all that as like crime and deny the political roots and deny the context of ingrained institutionalized racism just totally does a disservice to guys like Ice Cube. And they're standing up and they're saying, Mo, you don't get it. We are here. We are in ghettos. We are destitute. We came from nothing and we still got nothing. No one helped us. But the whole, all the tools of society are tilted against us. Your police are coming in here. They ain't helping us. Our schools ain't getting any money. You're just oppressing us. And so when we have a Watts riot or something like that, it's revolt. We're fighting for our human rights and we're not getting them. And that's what Stokely Carmichael was saying.
Oh,
and that's what Malcolm X was saying.
You're really impacted by this Stokely Carmichael book.
Because I can see it. Look, if you want to understand the Jewish experience, you have to look at the black experience in America. If you need a metaphor.
You don't want to talk about Elvis at all, do you?
Well,
you want to talk about
where are we going to go with Elvis? No, I like talking about Elvis. But it's just like the question, is Elvis good for the Jews? I think so, but it's pretty flimsy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Is Stokely Carmichael good for the Jews? I don't think so.
No, I don't think
so.
I don't actually know that much about... He was Snick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that much about Stokely Carmichael. I know more about Bobby Seale.
Right. Well, any of these guys, Bobby Seale. It's like they were not good for the Jews, but they were good for the Jews if you study their experience and understand their mindset. And that's why I'm willing to give them a lot of latitude.
Yeah, I was just going to say that requires that you give them a lot of latitude. And the issue that I always have with giving people a ton of latitude and that and sentences that start with "you need to understand," which I always seem to hear coming out of the mouths of Muslims. Mm-hmm. You need to understand means give me some leeway, give me this, don't treat me as an equal.
Well, I will treat you as an equal. I'll give you some leeway.
Yeah.
I will understand but it still
means
let me make it clear. If you seek to do me harm, I will resist you.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're coming from.
If I'm given the gift of being asked to give you leeway, then I still have the power. You know, I'm still the one going, oh, okay, I'll understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but if you want,
you're allowed to do all that stuff. That's cool.
If you want to kind of foster the mythology that, you know, we should all be treated equally and everyone's exactly the same and all cultures are the same. There is no culture, really. All human beings are exactly the same. Should be no distinction. I mean, it's just a bunch of BS. You know, you can't judge people out of the context of their experience and where they live and hold them to the same standards. You can't hold, you know, the Palestinian in Gaza or the black guy in Watts to the same moral and ethical standards as the President of the United States.
Explain further.
Because the conditions, because it's okay, I'll just use a metaphor story. You know the story of Les Miserables? You know, this guy stole bread and he was persecuted by the police for the rest of his life. Okay? If someone is so poor that they got to steal bread, you excuse them for stealing. If someone is rich like Bernie Madoff and he steals your billions of dollars, you don't excuse him. The context and the circumstance determines whether or not stealing is a crime.
But that seems like a slippery slope that ends with Peggy's boyfriend getting stabbed and blaming it on himself because they live in a bad neighborhood and he's oppressing people.
Well, that's what I said. I'll give you leeway up until a point, but if you seek to do me harm, I will resist you. I will defend myself, and I don't give a damn what your rationale is. It's like, wait. Did I hear you say that, you know, all Jews control all the banks and Israel is... No. I'm through listening. Them's fighting words. I don't care. It's like, I support you. You want to be free and you want to emancipate yourself. Do all that.
But does that mean I'm free to have horrible handwriting because I'm left-handed? And everybody knows left-handers are.
Or are you trying to write with your right hand?
No, everyone knows it's harder for left-handers to have good handwriting because the pen pulls up on our hands and the desk is backwards and it's harder for us. And we write like this because we were taught wrong. So yes. It's cool.
Yes, I'm forgiving your crappy handwriting.
Sweet. I worked really hard to have good handwriting, man.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Slowed way down. Your wife, none other than your wife once asked me to write her name tag out. She said, because your handwriting's much better than mine. It's going to take me 10 times as long, though.
It makes sense.
And that letter is Q, which is the worst letter to get. I'm playing a Words with Friends game right now where I have a Q, a U, and an O. And I'm up by 10 points. No, there's no room to put it anywhere. Quo is not a word.
No, it's true. Quote is a word.
Quote, if I had a T, I'd be in good shape.
If you got a Q and a U, you're in good shape.
But the board, it's the end of the game. Board's totally jammed up. There's no place for me to put my Q and my U.
Are you playing me?
No. No, it's my brother-in-law.
Really?
I forget do we have a game going right now? I don't think we do.
I think we do.
Do we?
I think it's my move. I'll check on that.
I don't know.
I've been lax on
have
it. On account of all the other important things I have to do.
Right. I usually have about 8 going at one time, so I do tend to forget. Do you ever play Strangers?
Yeah, I do play Strangers.
I play one. I hate playing Strangers.
Really? They don't appreciate my sense of humor. Like when
you talk to them?
Like, well, you know, if I produce a word like fart or something, I always like send a little text, you know.
Did you know goy is a word?
Goy? Really?
Yeah.
Makes sense. I've never used it, though.
Jew is not a word.
Jew's not, well, it's a proper noun.
Is it? Yeah, I guess so, huh? Yeah. I guess
if you spell Jew with a small J,
then you get
that's
struck
bad
by
for
lightning.
Jews. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'll come to your house. Right? Is Elvis good for the Jews? As the only, you know, I can say yes only because Elvis is good.
Let's expand and talk about rock and roll. Did Elvis beget David Lee Roth?
David Lee Roth's a Jew.
He is definitely a Jew. I heard on the radio today a David Lee Roth song that supported. I should have just said, is David Lee Roth good for the Jews? Because it's a way more complex issue.
Yeah.
Let's go to that. Is David Lee Roth good for the Jews?
There's definitely...
My mom doesn't know who he is, though.
David Lee Roth was the singer of the band Van Halen. They were huge in the 80s. And
rock, a real heavy metal band, Mom.
Right, and he was like a real good-looking, macho guy, long blonde, bleach blonde hair, big muscular guy.
His father was a dentist.
Right, real L.A.
But
character.
I always thought miscast. I heard that song "Just a Gigolo" today,
Yeah.
and I'm like, again, for the millionth time, that's who he really is. He's a song and dance man. He's a vaudevillian.
Right. That's kind of like Gene Simmons is going down the same
Right,
path.
right.
It's sort of.
Or if you knew anything about sports, I could say something about Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin, but you have no idea who
Michael
they are.
Irvin. I've heard of that guy.
He's a football player.
Yeah. Deion Sanders.
Football player.
Yeah. No, what's Michael Irvin's claim to fame other than being a football player?
There was a trial where he, okay, we're good, where he tried to have one of the witnesses killed. It was like a cocaine and hookers thing.
Really? Well, that don't sound so
Because
bad.
Satan and Jesus are fighting for his soul. And
Really?
that's the context he needs to be put in. Deion Sanders, they're big tent preachers.
Yeah,
They're
that's
not
bad
athletes.
for the Jews.
They're big tent preachers, just like Jerry Lee Lewis, who I love more than Elvis.
Jerry Lee Lewis. Yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis. So what's
He's
he
probably
preaching?
not good
He's
for the Jews.
Jerry Lee Lewis? Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Not Jerry Lewis.
I thought you meant Jerry Lewis. I was
Hey,
like,
lady.
Jerry, he's good for the Jews. He's raising money for, was it muscular dystrophy? What a guy.
By all accounts, such a bad guy, personally, and so messed up. And he had that movie. Have you heard of the movie? He made this movie about a clown during the Holocaust.
Oh, right. Yeah, but never was released.
Never released, legendary, but always
Right.
like so unpleasant
I'm sure
in
the
person.
French would like it.
Yeah, and great for the Jews.
Yeah, Jerry Lee
Jerry.
Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis, the
probably
killer.
not good for the Jews. Anyone
Probably
named
not
the
good
killer.
for anybody who ever came near him, but I love him. He's so
Oh, yeah.
tough. He is punk rock.
Oh,
man.
yeah. No, he's rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. And he married his cousin who was 13, which is not good for the Jews.
Well, I think Elvis married Priscilla. She was like 13. I mean, that's what they did down there. After all, how old was he? 19 or something?
Ah, so patronizing Elvis is good for the Jews.
I say again, you don't judge people outside of the context of their culture. You don't drop them into your San Francisco culture where you got to be 40 and already have your MBA and a couple of startups under your belt before you even start your family.
I agree with that, but it is kind of creepy to marry a 13-year-old. And Priscilla was 15 when he met her.
Did you see her?
Yeah, and he waited till she was 18.
Right, she was
Elvis was
foxy.
a gentleman.
Elvis was a gentleman. Jerry Lee Lewis was not known to be a gentleman.
No, but the great thing that I love about Jerry Lee Lewis is that Satan and Jesus were fighting equally for his soul. He had the devil inside of him, just like his cousin Jimmy Swaggart.
Right, Jimmy Swaggart, exactly right. Right, also not good for the Jews.
Not good for the Christians either.
Yeah, I would say the only the American pop preachers who are good for the Jews are like Pat Robertson's good for the Jews.
Really?
Billy Graham's good for. Oh yeah,
Billy Graham. So wait,
they're Zionists. It's
okay,
good for the Jews.
but
They preach an acceptance and embrace
and
of
if
the
again,
Jews.
if my dad was here, he could tell me if this is true or not. But isn't there footage of Nixon and Billy Graham talking, and Nixon's asking him what to do about the Jews?
Yeah, it could be.
But I don't remember what Billy Graham's response was.
Was Nixon good for the Jews? I mean, again, you can't take him out of the context of his time, 1968, 72.
But even for his time, he was a demonstrated anti-Semite.
He was good for Israel.
Yeah, good for Israel, but can you be good for Israel and not good for the Jews? I mean, was he good for the Israel?
Good for Israel, you're good for the Jews.
But if you're
Israel's
good for Israel out of strategic concerns, you still hate the Jews, but you think, I need that ally in the Middle East.
You know, it raises an interesting question. Are good deeds because of their intrinsic goodness, or does they have to have the best intent behind
Yeah,
them?
and I'm
to
a
be
best
good deeds?
intent guy.
Nah, I don't care what your intent.
Naive.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, my friend. You do good. Listen, you feed the hungry, that's good. You clothe the naked, that's good.
Even if it's...
You shelter the homeless, that's good. Doesn't matter what your intention is, doesn't matter what they do with it. Those are good deeds, they stand. True, there's Maimonides, like steps of goodness.
But what if
you can
Nixon
always
is
do better.
supporting Israel and his ultimate aim is to put missiles there? And that's the only reason why he's supporting
What if the
Israel?
Christian conservatives that make up the majority of this country and much of our government only support Israel because they believe in their apocalyptic vision of, the Jews must return to Zion
Well,
before
they do,
the Messiah
right?
can come? Well, what if that's their only reason? So they
I'm
have
not-
no interest in our long-term
I'm
survival.
not really down with it.
Well,
It's just a difference of opinion.
what I say is their support is good for the
Yeah.
Jews. If it's temporary, hey, you take what you can get. It's better than no support at all.
Well, sure, Nixon's support of Israel was good for the Jews, but I don't know if Nixon was good for the Jews.
Henry Kissinger was Secretary of State. When has a Jew ever risen to such a high
I always
position
wonder, you know what I used to
in
say?
America?
That when Kissinger left the room, how long do you think it took Nixon to make an anti-Semitic crack?
He probably made him while he was
While
sitting
he
in
was
the room.
there, he
Yeah.
emasculated him to get him to do his bidding.
But you know what? Here's how this Jew feels. I don't care. You know what?
Really?
I'm not one of those knee jerks who make an anti-Semitic comment. I got to be all over you.
Because you're a warrior, Jew.
Right? I'm tough.
You don't give a crap.
It's like, and again, I look at black folks. I say, how do you conduct yourself with dignity? I mean, look at black folks. They suffer so many barbs and slights and indignity, so that they learn how to deal with it, and they maintain their pride and dignity in the face of all that, because they know. Some of that shit, you just can't sweat it, man. It's just not that important. Forgive them, God. They know not what they do.
Well, as a people, we do have trouble sweating small things.
As a people, we have difficulty with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for the Jews to be hypersensitive.
It's not good for anyone, and I sweat the small things. It's terrible. It's a terrible way to go through life.
Right. That's why I keep bringing up this whole question of, do you give these guys latitude, like the Stokely Carmichaels and the Malcolm X's and Louis Farrakhan's? Do you give them latitude?
No, I don't give Farrakhan latitude.
I say you give him latitude.
Context is.
I say you give them latitude.
I really don't give a crap what Screwy Louie's context is.
I think that they're not really causing damage to the Jewish people. I think whatever their views are, I prefer they see things differently. Their anti-Semitic views, they do exist. They are anti-Semitic. I just don't think
you can walk around saying stuff like that and have everyone go, that's fine. That's cool.
I think here's what happens as a Jew. We are one of the first generations who has to learn what it means to be a prominent people with real power. And we have to accept that comes with a certain amount of, for better or worse, we have to tolerate and accept a certain amount of anti-Semitism. It comes with the position of having power. And we have to distinguish in our minds legitimate criticism of our behavior as a people and whatever, versus the illegitimate criticism, which is just born out of ignorance and hatred. And that's very hard to do.
Maybe because I don't operate under the auspices that we have legitimate power, I never recognize the legitimate criticism, though I make it all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, mine's probably not legitimate.
Sort of this
mine's probably not legitimate.
Rather enigmatic there. Paradoxical, one might say.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. You think Farrakhan had Malcolm X killed?
Well, what I believe is that...
Or do you think Yusuf Bai had it done?
I don't know who had it done, but I believe there was definitely within the black Muslims, there was this conflict, and I believe there was people who wanted Malcolm X killed within his own ranks, basically, or the ranks that he separated himself from. But I also believe that the FBI was monitoring the communications between the black Muslims and played an active role. I think they fomented it to a certain degree. I think they leveraged the discord among the black Muslims and launched a disinformation campaign, a surreptitious disinformation campaign.
Surreptitious.
Right. I think they were listening in on calls, and then they were knowing what people were thinking. They were making up fake messages that were poisoning the plot.
Do you also think they flooded Oakland with heroin to dissolve the Black Panthers?
I don't believe they did that. I believe that the heroin in Oakland is because of criminals. However, Oliver North really screwed things up when he was running that cocaine, Iran-Contra thing, because it gave all these conspiracy theorists a real case to hang their hat on. Say, well, here's a case where a guy from the government was actually importing drugs to pay for an illegal weapons program. It happened once. Why couldn't it happen again?
You know the problem with conspiracy theories are? They're really fun.
Yeah.
They're a blast. I could read about the Kennedy assassination for days.
Well, I think there's probably legitimacy to that one. But look, we're talking about what happened in the 60s and 70s before internet, before mass communication.
Right.
No one can keep a secret today.
Let me ask you this.
If there's a conspiracy today, tell me Edward Snowden and his like aren't going to spill the beans. Yeah. And it's not going to be all over the internet.
Let me ask you this, because it's getting time to close up. If Elvis was 19 today, would he be considered to be in more trouble than Justin Bieber?
Oh no, Elvis at 19.
You don't think they would know?
Control.
You don't think they'd know he was a speed freak at that age?
I don't think it was a problem.
You don't think Elvis had weird things going on with peanut butter and white panties that people would know about?
I think it all falls within the
I think they would say Elvis is out of control. Elvis is losing it. And he wouldn't have gone. Well, he wouldn't have gone to the army, first of all.
I think Elvis at 19 looks perfectly tame compared to Justin Bieber.
I don't know. I think Bieber may just be tame.
I think Elvis at 40 was...
we thought the Beatles were innocent until we started reading later. No, they weren't.
Well, what'd they do?
They were just like anyone who's on the road and doesn't have to get up early and has access to drugs and women and whatever.
Right. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I'm saying if they were starting out today, we'd know because someone would take a picture with their phone or they tweet it or. So I don't think we're gonna. Not only do I not think we're gonna solve whether Elvis is good for the Jews, I don't think we really care.
Well, you got to take a position.
All right, I don't think he's good for the Jews.
I think it was good for the Jews
I
because I think it was good.
I
think it's good for everyone.
It's appropriate,
Jews included.
It's appropriate to disagree. We disagree because we were pretty lukewarm on the topic. However, I think maybe I should read that Stokely Carmichael book next week so I can come back with some ammo.
Well, you need to start sending me text about the important sporting events that I should pay attention to so I can say something intelligent. I can do a little homework so at least I can be like, oh yeah, Michael Vick, is that the guy's name with the dogs?
Yeah, but that's such old news. I mean, he's like an elder statesman about to retire now.
I got to do a lot of catching up. I admit it.
You do. You're in a home surrounded by girls and a cat, and you're not interested except for